Should there be audio with this video?
Hello, this is Rieko from Gensukyo. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Yes. So this is the street campaign conducted by Gensukyo and Japan Peace Committee members. It's live in Ginza district of Tokyo, a very busy shopping district. As the national election, the House of Councillors election is coming up very soon, in 2 weeks. So people are gearing up actions, trying to send our representatives to the parliament where they can voice our support for the TPNW and for nuclear-free Japan. And the MC is saying that this action is live streamed all over the world, joining in solidarity with the peace movement globally. As you know, the ruling party, the Liberal Democratic Party of Japan, and headed by Kishida, refused to join the first meeting of states parties to the TPNW. And people are really angry and surprised to find that the only A-bombed country, as the LDP called itself, is refusing to join this very important meeting, while saying that Japan will serve as the bridge builder between the nuclear weapon states and non-nuclear weapon states. So the banner said, let us render the judgment for peace. Let's change the policy of Japan becoming to the A-bombed nation. The Japanese government should join the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons. Okuma Akira, singer-songwriter, is performing his song. Let us go hand in hand with the people of the world for peace. Let us walk hand in hand with the people of the world. Where can we find answers for peace? In your heart? Behind the walls? So let us end this age of nuclear.
Stay for everything.
And we march together with the peace-loving people of the world. We only have this planet. This is the only planet where we can live. So with the people of all the world, we fight, we march together to defend peace. We will never give up. The banner says no to war. Don't use nuclear weapons. Let us make our peace constitution live. So we will continue singing this one song.
有楽町マリオン前、そして銀座駅前ご通行中の皆さん、そしてこの街で働いていらっしゃる皆さん、こんにちは。私たちは、戦争のない未来、それを作るために平和を守る、そして憲法を守る、そして核兵器のない世界に一直線に進んでくれる、
defend
そうい
peace,
った
defend the
人
peace
こそ
constitution,
国会の場に送り出して、
and
平和な世
create
界を
a world
実現しよう。
without nuclear
平和な世
weapons.
界は待っていても来ない。私たち
Let
が
us
声を
send
上げて
our
行動しなければ
representative
実現しないんだという思
to
いを
the
込めて
diet
今この場で宣伝をさせていただいております。みんな
our
いろいろな
voices
ね
should
方
be
法で
heard.
平和を求めていらっしゃると思うんですけれども、そう信じたいんですけれども、でもその
There are
平和
many
のため
ways
に、あるいはこの
to
国を
achieve
守るため
peace.
にという言葉のもとで人類
But
は
in the
戦争を
name
繰り
of
返してきました。
protecting peace,
二度と戦争を
many
起
of
こ
the
させない。
politicians
また
are
戦争が起きてしまってます。
talking about
それを一刻
increasing
も
our
早くやめ
military
させる。
budget,
そのためには私たちも武器を持つんだではなくって、だからこそみん
saying
なが
we
武
have
器
to
を捨て
take up
るんだ。
arms.
みんなが二度と武器を持たない。そのことを誓い合うんだ。そう誓った私たちこの日本の国にある憲法こそ今変えるのではな
But
く
we
て、
counter their argument. We pledge to the world that we denounce all the war potentials, all the arms, as declared in our peace constitution. Diplomacy should be the only way to defend peace. So please read the leaflet that we are distributing now. And let's discuss peace, and let's discuss our important national election. The rate of voting in Japan is very low, and it's deplorable. But it's very important election.
ちょっと手加減してくれればいいのになと思うぐらい天気ですけれども、皆さん熱中症に気をつけて水分補給しっかりしながら、今日は、ウクライナカラーであります青と黄色の、旗も、掲げられています。ウクライナの青と黄色、色には意味がありまして、黄色は一面の小麦畑、そして青はどこ
in
までも
solidarity with the people of
今
Ukraine.
この小麦畑が踏み荒らされています。青い空が汚されています。青い空は青いままでこの村に伝えたい。
The wheat fields got trampled down, and the blue sky is being polluted by gunpowder. Next song is Blue and Clear Sky. 'Blue and clear sky, we should continue for our children. On that day of August, many years ago, many people perished under atomic bomb. We will carry on their lives on our shoulders into the future. On that night, many people's souls were taken to the sky. But their prayers and wishes for peace will continue, carry on into the future. Blue and clear sky, we will carry on into our future. The brilliance of our lives will continue in our solidarity with the people all over the world.
日本は参議院選挙真っ最中ですけれども、世界を見渡すと、今、オーストリアで、核兵器禁止条約の締約国会議が開かれています。
Meeting of states parties to the TPNW was held, but the government of disabled country did not take part in this conference. Although Prime Minister Kishida was elected from the Hiroshima constituency, he refused to take part or send a representative to this conference. The mayors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki took part in this conference, but we were all ashamed that the government representative was absent from this important meeting.
だから核兵器禁止条約には私たちは参加しないと岸田さん言いました。でも一方で核抑止力のアメリカで行われる会議には政府代表を派遣してるんです。
While saying that Japan will act as a bridge builder in the non-nuclear and nuclear states, and still absent from this TPNW conference, Prime Minister is taking part with the bilateral and the meeting with the United States, talking about the increase of the defense budget. Very absurd. This is the Japanese version of Imagine.
空があるだけ目標ないただ地球があるだけただそう思えば簡単なこと社会主義も主義も偉い人も貧しい人もみんなが同じならば簡単なこと夢かもしれないでもその夢を見てるのは遠いじゃない世界中にいるのさ誰かを憎んでも派閥を作っても頭の上にはただ空があるだけみんながそう思うよ簡単なことよ夢かもしれないでもその夢を見てるのは君一人じゃない世界中にいるのさ夢かもしれないかもしれないでもその夢を見てるのは一人だけじゃない仲間がいるのさイマジン、ジョン・レノンは言いました。想像してごらん、国境なんかない。みんなが平和に暮らしている未来を想像してみようと言いました。日本国憲法はまさにイマジンだというふうに、今の清志郎さん言いました。憲法を読んでみろよ。まるでジョン・レノンのイマジンみたいじゃないか。
Someone said
今憲法を変えようと言って
Japan's
る人たち
peace
は同じことを
constitution
言っ
is
てるんです。
exactly
夢に
what
なったと
Imagine
現
was
実を見ろ
saying.
と。現実を見てほしいのはあなたたちの方ですよ。今軍備を持ったら戦争になる。そんな簡単なことがなんで
Some
わからな
people
いんだろう
say we have to look at the reality.
戦争をしたがる政治家をこれ以上国
But the
会に行ってもらう
reality
わけにはいかないと僕は思ってます。
we really
戦
have
争
to
したがるん
see.
だったらもう政治家やめてく
Some
ださい
people
と。
are eager
戦
to
争し
wage
たくないと
war.
言ってる人たちこそ政治家になって頑張っていただ
And
きたい
who
と思
will
っておりま
benefit
す。
from
ぜ
the
ひみん
war?
な一緒に声を上げていきましょう。ありがとうございまし
They
た。
are the people who support those right-wing warmongering politicians. He was Okuma Akira, singer-songwriter. We are members of the Japan Peace Committee and Japan Council Against ANH Bombs, Gensuikyo. We want to increase the number of the politicians who will work for peace in the Diet, in our parliament. So today's action is part of the 24-hour peace wave, global actions. People are working all over the world. People are demanding stop war in Ukraine. We work in solidarity with the people trying to stop the war and aggression. Next speaker is Mr. Hiroshi Taka of Japan 元帥協。
ご通行中の皆さん、私たちは日本元帥協、元帥部、元帥日本協議会、そして日本の平
Hello
和
everyone.
に関してつながっている
We are from the Japanese Peace Movement, Japan 元帥協 and Japan Peace Committee.
今日は6月26日、世界で戦争と
So today, on the 26th of June,
平和運動の仲間
all
たち
over the
が
world,
それから
people
24
are
時間
joining the 24-hour peace wave.
利用して世界中で平和のための行動を繰り広げます。
So the peace campaigns are being held,
87年
rolling out
最初はアメリカ
together
と
with the rotation of
ソ連の平和運動
the planet.
が共に広島に集い、世界
The
に
very first peace wave was held
私たちが
during the
平和を
1980s,
戦争ばっかりやって
proposed by the representatives of the US peace movement and the Soviet
日本も
peace movement.
苦労したのといろんな議論が出ています。しかし皆さん、冷静に考えてみてください。平和はそんなに難しいことではありません。
Actually, achieving peace should not
77
be
年前に
that
世界中
difficult.
のすべての国が一つのことで一致しました。それは国際紛争を武力行使によって
Already
解決
in
します。
1946,
我々世界の人民は20世紀
the
の
countries all over the world were united in
世界
declaring
の問題を話し合いにより
in the Charter of the United Nations
これをルール
that all international conflicts
そして最初
should
に
be solved
と
peacefully
いうのは国際紛争
without
を
military means.
武力の威嚇や行使によって解決しよう。
So the use or
これ
threat
は
of use
世界の国際法の根本中の根本、国連憲章に対する違反行為です。これを世
should
界
be
の国々が
prohibited.
決めた通りに守るだけで世界に平和を訪れます。そして、
So
そうい
if
うふうにしよう。
each country
戦争でなく平和的に
observes
解決しよう。
the Charter of the United Nations, we can
この時にロシア
achieve
の
peace.
あの戦争を見て、140の国々が戦争をやめるべきだ。紛争を平和的に解決すべきだ。こう決議した。これが世界の意思です。2つ目の
When Russia invaded Ukraine, 140 countries voted in favor of stopping the war at the United Nations. So this is the overwhelming majority voice of the world.
こういう施設や人々に対して武力を使うことだ。これは最も悪い行為なんですね。戦時国際法の違反、国際人道
So use
国際人道法に対する
of
違反
arms
でこれを犯す者を
against hospitals or schools
人道の
on innocent civilians. This is the worst
この裁
form
判所
of
に裁かれる行為なんです。
violation of international law.
これも世界の140の国々の意思で可決されました。そしてもう一つ絶対にやっちゃいけないことがあります。それは核兵器で
One
脅
more
かしたり、
thing
核兵器を
that
使う
should
準備
not should not be done
核兵
is
器の数は1万
the
3000
threat
しか
of
し
use of
持って
nuclear
いる
weapons.
国は世界193の国連加盟国の中でわずかに9つなんですね。
But there are only 9 countries which possess nuclear weapons out of 193 members of the United Nations.
今平和が訪れない理由ははっきりしています。この平和を守るべき最も中心にいる核大国5つの
The reason why we are witnessing war instead of peace is that the 5 nuclear powers, 5 permanent members of the Security Council of the United Nations, are not observing the Charter of the United Nations.
世界の国々が一致して協力して国民も団結してこれらの力を
So
持って
if all of
戦争をやめろ
the countries all over the world and the people of all these countries are united in voicing
れを世界中で行動しようじゃない。
peace.
それが今日の平和の行動なんです。
We can achieve
海外の皆
peace,
さん、
change our government.
ですからおられるかもしれませんね。
That should be the purpose of this 24-hour peace wave
今日の行動
going
は
around
イン
the
ターネ
globe.
ットを通じて国際的にも流されています。流されていますよね。
So our action is now live streamed internationally on the
この被
internet.
爆国日本から一言
So
簡
from
単なメッセー
this
ジを
Japan,
ください。Dear friends worldwide, this message coming to you from the only able country in the world, Japan. 1945, we suffer from the atomic bomb. It was a weapon to kill everyone, all our cities, which was attacked. If nuclear bombs are used again, it will not be a single one, but it will be a disaster for human beings. Today's action, we are working first of all to call for the stop on the aggression, war of aggression by Russia against Ukraine. It is a violation of the international law, as well as the Charter of the United Nations, to use or threat of use nuclear weapons. And above all, the use of force for the resolution of international conflict. We call on Russia to stop immediately the war. We have firmly the strong demand on the Japanese government and other governments that are resorting to military force to stop international problems. Japanese government, unfortunately, is taking side on the war preparation, only using the ongoing war in Ukraine. Japanese government is advocating to strengthen Japan's security treaty, coming under the nuclear umbrella provided by the United States. Using nuclear weapons means to kill not only the military personnel, military targets, but it kills everybody. Even in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, though the war was launched by Japan, it was wrong that Japan did that. Nevertheless, those who died, who were killed by the nuclear bombs, 87% were ordinary citizens of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This should not be repeated anywhere in the world. So we call on all governments, and particularly those who stand in the very core of the United Nations, to stop resorting to military forces, to stop using nuclear weapons, but to work for peace and work for the total abolition of nuclear weapons. And in Japan, there will be after the election next month, we have the constitution here, which says Japan belongs forever the use of force in attempting to solve the Russian conflict. And as a token, we abandon the war potentials, the forces of land, air, and sea. This constitution is not something like accessory, but that is a very foundation of Japanese law, which Japanese government should abide by. So we, at the very last, I'd like to call on Japanese to choose to use this opportunity. Election is important. That is the most important opportunity for the people to change the course of Japan, to bring the desire, your own desire, into reality. So we call on all Japanese people to act now for peace, for the total abolition of nuclear weapons, and change the politics in Japan. Solidarity internationally to the people in the world for acting for peace. Thank you.
ありがとうございました。ご通行中の皆さん、私たちは日本原水町、そして日本平和委員会という市民運動団体です。
Thank you, Hiroshitaka.
戦争をなくす、憲法9条を守らせる、そのために
We are taking action to abolish nuclear weapons to defend peace, defend the Constitution of Japan.
一般としてこちらに立っています。参議院選挙の真っ只中でもあります。皆さんに平
We
和
are
の
now in the midst of the election campaign for the House of Councillors.
平和理解から北区事務局長です。
Next speaker is Chisaka Jun, Secretary General of Japan Peace Committee.
皆さん、今ご紹介がありましたように、今日は岸田首相も参加するスペイン・マドリードでの NATO 首脳会談を前にして、マドリードからウクライナまで24時間世界をつないで、ロシアの
So on the eve of the NATO summit
戦争
to
で
be
はな
held
く、
in
平和を
Madrid,
軍事同盟強化でなく、軍縮をと訴える行
people
動を
around the
行
world
っています。
are taking part in this 24-hour peace
私
wave
も平
from
和を願
Madrid
い、
to Ukraine.
世界の仲間の皆さんと一緒に訴えをさせていただきたいと思います。本当にウクライナによる侵略、絶対に許すことができませんよね。しかも市街地をめちゃくちゃに
We are appalled and saddened by the invasion
子
of
供たちや
Ukraine
民
by
間
Russia.
人の命を平然と奪っている。さらに、
People are brutally killed
使用さえもあり得ると脅している。
and schools and hospitals are attacked
国連憲
mercilessly.
章と国
And
際法に
even
反した
the use of nuclear weapons is
侵
suggested.
略戦争です。
This is
私たち
a
は
clear
毎週金曜日、
violation of
ロシ
international
ア
law
大使館前に
and
行っ
a clear
て、ロシア
aggression.
の侵略をやめろ、国連憲章を守れ、その声を上げています。
So stop
ぜ
the
ひ皆さん、
invasion,
世界の
protect
人々と一緒に
the
なって、
peace principles
この残
of
虐
the
で
UN
不
Charter.
幸なロシアの侵略戦争、一刻も早くやめさせるために声を上げ続けようではありませんか。
Let us continue
この
raise our
日本
voices
で
to stop the war.
戦争でなく平和を訴えるときに、今、ロシアの侵略を利用して、岸田
So
政権
in
が
Japan, when we need to
変える
defend peace,
日米軍事同盟を強化する
the government is taking
大軍拡を
example
進め
of
る
Russian aggression
これを
as an
進めようとしてい
excuse
ることを
for
何
increasing
としても
the defense
反対
budget.
しなければいけないと思っています。
We really need to stop that.
今、参議院選挙が行われていますが、この選挙で岸田政権が掲げている公約をぜひご覧ください。本当に恐ろしい
So
中身
please
だ
have
と
a look at
私は思うんです。
the promises by the Liberal Democratic Party in
核
this
の恫喝を加え
national
ている。
election.
それに対して、だっ
They
た
are
ら日本もア
that
メリカの
because Russia
核兵器をいざというときは
is threatening to use nuclear weapons,
確実に使う。そういう
We need to
体
make
制を
sure
強化して、
that the
こっち
United
も核兵
States
器で恫喝してや
is
ろうじゃないか。
protecting Japan
こういう
with
政
its
策を
nuclear weapons.
掲げているんです。
And we need
政
to
策では、発弾抑
adapt
止
the
とか、
policy of
よくわからない
threatening
表現を
with
使ってい
nuclear
ますけども、結
Of
局は
course, the wording
アメリカ
that
が
they are using is different, but that's what they are
ひる
saying.
まないで核兵器を使って何十万人の人たちの命をいっぺんに奪うことをためらうな、そういう政策を進めようとしているんですね。
So the policy that they are trying
皆
to
さんもご
promote
存知だと思いますけど、
is to use
真の会の
or
皆さんな
allow
どは
to use nuclear weapons
今度は
without
ア
hesitation
メリカの核兵器を
when the time comes.
自衛隊も共有をして、自衛隊がいざという場合
And
は
some other
核攻撃ができるような体制を作っていこうじゃないか。
are
こん
calling
なことさえ
for
この参議院
the
選挙で
nuclear sharing policy
掲げているんです。
to be adopted by
そ
Japan
して、こういう
so that the Japan self-defense forces
アメリカの
can
核
join
兵
the
器を
US
使ってもらおう
forces
じゃない
to
かという
use nuclear weapons.
政策を進めている人は、こぞって 今、アメリカが開発している中距離弾道ミサイルを陸上に配備する、それをやってもらおうじゃないか。それ
So
を
they are
沖
promoting
縄の南
the
西諸島や
deployment of the
日
middle
本
range
国中に置いてもらおう
ballistic
じゃないか。
missiles
こういう声を
of
大
the
声で
US
上げているんです。皆さん、
on Japanese
弾道ミサイル
southern
というの
islands
は中国や北朝鮮も開発している恐ろしい兵器ですよね。
to defend
10
Japan.
分ちょっとでそれぞれ
But
の
as you know,
攻
the
撃
ballistic
目標に
missiles
到達をする。それを
can
日本
reach
国中に、今度はアメリカの
Japan
ミサイ
only
ルを
in
配備す
minutes.
るとしたらどうなりますか？中国と北朝鮮とロシアと日本がどちらがいつ
So
核ミサイルを撃つの
if
か、
we
戦
deploy
々恐々として
such ballistic missiles all over Japan,
核戦争に発
there
展
will
しかね
be
ない、
the targets
こういう恐怖
of the
の
counterattacks,
日本列島になってしまうのは、
counter-nuclear attacks.
そんなことを私たち子供たちの未来のために絶対に止めなければいけないと思い
Must
ます。
absolutely should
皆
stop,
さん、
prevent
先ほどからお話
for
があ
the
るよう
future
に、
of our children.
世界では先日80以上の国々が集まって核兵器禁止条約
As you know, more
締
than
約国
80
会とい
countries
うのをオーストリ
took
アの
part in
ウィ
the
ーンで行いました。そしてその中で
first
は
meeting of states parties to the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons held in Vienna, Austria.
核の威嚇、緊張の激化につながる政策の道具として使われているということを強調して、核兵器禁止条約への全ての国々への参加を力強く呼びかけました。皆さん、
Just
こ
declare
れが世界の流れであり、私たち
that
の
the nuclear weapons are used
声ではない
as
でしょ
a
うか。
tool of
これには
politics
アメリカと軍事同盟を結んでいる
other nations.
オーストラリア、ドイツ、ノルウェー、オランダ、ベル
And
ギー
we
など
must
の国々
increase
も
the number of countries joining the
ちゃん
TPNW.
と議論に参加している。ところがどうです
In
か？
this states parties conference,
被爆地広島
even the
出身
members of
の
NATO countries
岸田
like
首相とその
Germany,
政権は
Norway,
この会
and
議
the
に
Netherlands
オブザーバーとして参
took
加
part
す
as
ることしか
observers,
しなかったんです。
and they were open for discussion.
この会議が行われていたときに同時並行で
But the Japanese government
アメリ
refused
カの
to join this conference.
核潜水艦のあるキングスベイ海軍基地というところで日米の拡大抑止協議というのをやっていた。
The Japanese government
この拡大
defense
協議
ministry
というのは
officials
どういう
joined
時にアメリ
the
カが
bilateral conference with the United States held at Kings Bay, the nuclear
私は
base,
本当に恥ずかしくて
where they
悔
pledged
しくて
to tighten
しょうがありません。
the alliance relationship between the two countries
やることでしょうか。今、岸田
of
政権が
promoting a
進めている
nuclear
方向は
deterrence, so-called.
この日本をアメリカの核の拠点にして、そうしてアジアを核戦争に巻き込んでいく、そういう危険な方向だと
Whether
私は思います。
we head for making Japan
そういう方向を目指す人々に脳の
as
審判
nuclear
をぜ
base,
ひ下していただきたいと思います。
threatening
もう一つ、岸田
the
政
peace
権が
of Asia,
この参議院選挙の
or to
公約
make
に掲げ
Japan
ているとんでも
the
ない
base
こと
for
が
peace.
あると思うんです。それは
The
今言ったよ
decision
う
is
に
in our
アメ
hands.
リカが他国をミサイルで攻撃するような戦争を始めるときに自衛隊も一緒になって他国を攻撃できる、そういう敵基地攻撃能力、打撃力、反撃力を保有しようじゃないかということを掲げているんですね。そうしてこういう他国をアメリカ
And
と
the
一緒に
Japanese
なって
government is also calling for acquiring the ability
それが
to
大手
hack
をしてできるように憲法
the
9
enemy
条の
base.
改革をこういうことをはっきりと掲げています。
And they're, in order to make this happen,
長距離ミ
they
サ
are
イルを
attempting
搭
to
載する
revise
戦闘機や
Article 9 of the
空母を
Constitution.
どんどん増強する。そのためにこれから5年間で軍事費 費を倍増させて、
And in the
5
next
兆
5
円も
years,
6兆円も
the government
軍事
is
費を
planning
増大させよう
to
じゃないか。
double
そういうことも
the current defense budget.
岸田首相はずるいですね。テレビ討論会なんかに出ると、いやいや金額は決めておりません。だから財源もこれから考えるんです。こういうふうにごまかすんですよ。しかし、自民党の公約には、はっ
Prime
きりと
Minister
軍事費を2倍にするって書いてありますよ。
on the political debate
高い
program on TV
これを進
is
めるためには
swaying
10兆
in
円規模の予算が必要だってはっきり言って
his
るんです
words
よ。
about
こういうことをごまかして、
the budget
そして
increase
選挙が
or
終わった
the
ら、
exact amount of budget he's trying to
社
achieve.
会保障の切り捨てを押し付けてくる。
The
こういう選挙
LDP's
のやり方、
election
私は本
manifesto
当に
clearly says
必要だと思うんです。
that Japan's military budget should increase to 2% of the
するとしたら、
GDP.
消費税をあと 2% 引き上げることになります。年金生活者の方は年間で12
With
万
this
円も
increase of the
給
military
額をカッ
budget,
トされることになりますよ。そして医療費は今現役の方が
the
窓口負
social
担3割です
programs
けど、
will be
それが
brutally
6割
cut.
にまで引き上げられることになる。そういうことを隠しながら
The health
分割を
care
今度の参議院選挙が終わったら
and
どん
old
どん進
people's
めていく。
pension
皆さん、
will be
この
slashed
流れにストップを
brutally.
かけることが絶対に必要だと私は思っています。
The
皆さん、
education of the younger
日本が
generation
やるべき
will
こ
be
とは
neglected.
こんなことじゃないですよね。
What Japan should
日本
do
がやるべきことは
is
被
not
爆国として
that kind of
核兵
thing.
器禁止条約に率先して
As the
署名
A-bombed
批准して、
country,
そして
Japan
ロ
should
シアにも中国に
join
も
the
アメリ
TPNW
カにも北朝鮮にも
immediately,
韓国にもこの
And-
核兵器禁止条約に入ろうじゃないか。このアジア
and
を
only then
非核
Japan
の
can
そういう地域にしていこうじゃないかということを
all the
訴え
nuclear
ていくこと
states
では
around
ないでしょ
Japan,
うか。
Russia,
あ
North
るいは
Korea,
東南ア
China
ジア諸国、ASEAN がやっているように
to join
中
the
国も
treaty,
ロシアもアメリカも北朝
and
鮮も
as other nations in the Southeast Asia are doing,
そうしてさまざまな問題を紛争を話し合いで解決していく。
Japan should take the lead in solving the international conflict by peaceful means, through dialogue,
そ
through
して原
diplomacy.
爆のあの悲劇を体験した日本政府がやることじゃないでしょうか。
That should be
皆さん、今度の参議院選挙で
this
そういう政
government
府
of
を
Japan
作
should
る
be
私
doing.
たちの意思をしっかりと示していきましょう。
So in the
そのこと
forthcoming
をぜひ世界の皆さんとも
election
一緒になっ
of
て
the House of
頑張ってい
Councillors,
きたいと思います。頑張りましょう。
let us
どうもあり
raise
がとう
our
ございまし
voice
た。
and change the government. Thank you so
交
much.
通の皆さん、私たちは核兵器をなくす、戦争をなくす、そのために長年活動してきました日本原水庁、そして日本平和委員会という市民運動団体です。今日は
Hello, everyone.
この番組で
Our peace movement
しております。
have long been working for a nuclear weapon-free world.
ロシアによるウクライナへの戦争、今すぐやめる。
So we stand opposed
戦争反
to
対
the ongoing war
ゲスト前
by
へ
Russia against Ukraine.
戦争反対の声をつなげる行動を今日、昨日から今日にかけてオンラインで結
So
ぶ
since yesterday to today,
ということの
the online 24-hour peace wave has been going on globally, going around the world. People all over the world
皆さんに
are joining.
今日にお出かけいただきたいとも思っています。続きまして、スピーチをお願いしますのは、基地のない平和な沖縄を作る会の
The next speaker is from Okinawa.
ご通行中の皆さん、こんにちは。もうすぐ8月、あと1ヶ月も経てば8月6日と9日がやってきます。
in only 1 month from now, we will commemorate the 77th anniversary of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki days.
皆さんが懸命になって訴えてきた。その成果、認知条約、
Thanks to
去年、
the intense efforts and appeal by the Hibakusha, we were able to achieve the entry into force of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons.
とても残念で恥ずかしいことです。ウクライナ侵略
But
を
it's very shameful that our government refused to join the first meeting of states parties to the DPNW held in Vienna just in the last few days.
私のふるさとは沖縄ですが、77年前、
I was born in
戦
Okinawa.
があったところです。
This is the only place where the land battle was held in World War II
ありました。
in Japan.
約20万人よりの人たちが亡くなり、それを慰霊する日でした。
200,000 people
で
were
も沖
killed
縄は今
on
も
Okinawa.
多くの死を抱えて危ない
In
状況に
Okinawa,
いま
it's
す。
still
死の軽減と言いながら巨大な基地
made
を作る。
a US nuclear base.
中国の脅威を煽り、
There are so many
大
US
変と
bases
大陸基地を作る。
on Okinawa.
ということで本当に平和が守られるのでしょうか。
How can we defend peace? By building the nuclear base
この間
on
の
Okinawa.
慰霊の日に小学校
We
全
just
生の女の
commemorated
子が平和の書を読みました。
the
とても
Okinawa's
素晴らしい日なので、
end of war day
改めて読まさせていただきます。
commemoration on the 23rd.
公愛を知って平和が分かった。徳本小野菜さん。美術館へお出かけ。おじいちゃんやおばあちゃんも一緒にみんなでお出かけ。嬉しいな。怖くて
A
正しい絵だっ
primary
た。
school girl read her poem on the day of the commemoration.
ただ赤ちゃんやお母さん、風車や少女の絵もあったけれど、とても悲しい絵だった。お母さんが77年前の
Went
沖縄
out
の絵だと言った。本当にあった
to
こと
see
な
the
のだ。
drawings drawn by school children of Okinawa
骸骨も
right
あった。
after the war.
私
It
と
was an exhibition.
同じ年の子供が悲しそうに
We
見ている。
went together with
怖いよ。
my grandparents, my
悲しい
parents.
よ。かわいそうだよ。
But there are so many sad pictures.
戦争の反対は何？平和？
I was so
平
sad
和って何？
to see these pictures.
急に怖くな
What
っ
is
て
the opposite
お
word
母
of
さんに
war?
くっついた。
It is
温
peace.
かくてほっとした。これが平和なのかな。お姉ちゃんと喧嘩した。お母さんは
But what is peace?
二人の話を聞いてくれた。そして仲直り。これが
I had
平
a
和なのか
quarrel
な。
and fight with my sister, elder
戦
sister.
争が怖いから平和をつかみたい。ずっと
And my mother
家に持っておく。
listened to both of
絶
us
対に落とさないように、なくさないように、忘れないように。
and we
怖
discussed
いを知って平和が分かった。
and made peace.
この詩の中には憲法9条そのものが詰まっています。
That should be the way
怖い絵を
to
見て
solve
お母さんに
conflicts.
聞いたその温かさ、生きている証です。そしてお姉ちゃんと喧
We
嘩をし
should
て
act
お母さんが中
as
に
her
入って
mother.
仲介してくれて仲良くなれた。素晴らしい平和外交じゃないですか。
That should be the way that diplomacy should
絶
be
対
held.
なくしてはいけない。忘れないようにかけてポッと移った。これは大人たちが本当に守らなければいけないことではないでしょうか。この小学校2年生の女の子の感性を私たち大人は大事にしながら平和を守っていく。今こそ正念場です。この選挙、子供たちの未来が私たちの未来にかかっています。
That's way of thinking
終わる
by
たびに
11-year-old schoolgirl
こうしてしまってい
should be
く。
something that we all adults should
そ
adapt.
れを保管する勢力が大多数を取れば、私たち国民の命も脅かされて不安定になります。行動するということは、一票一票大事にし、政治を考え
So
て行
for
動す
every
るこ
one
と
of
で
us to take action for
今
peace
度の選挙、とても
is
大事な
to
選挙で
do whatever small we can
しっか
to
りと
do.
考えて、
Raise our
参加
voice,
しない選択をし
speak
ま
with
しょう。
our friends,
よろしくお願いいたし
and
ます。
go to vote. Let's work together.
ありがとうございました。スピーチを続けていきます。日本原水町の島田さんからです。お願いします。
Thank you. Next speaker is Shimada Yuhi of Gensuikyo.
有楽町駅ご通行中の皆さん、こんにちは。私たちは日本平和委員会と原水爆日本協議会の、仲間のみんなで、2週間後に迫りました参議院選挙、そこで、平和を求める政治家を国会に、求めるということで、今日はここの場所をお借りしまして、緊急の、宣伝を行っています。大きい音で失礼しますが、ぜひ耳を傾けていただけると幸いです。私たちは今度の参議院選挙は、日本の暮らしや生活にとって、
The next election of House of Councillors
平和かという
to be held on the
重大
10th
な
of July
局面を迎えていると思っています。
is very
その
important
理由として
for
は、
our future.
この間のロシアのウクライナ侵略に乗じて、政府与党やその他補完する勢力から、アメリカと核兵器を共有する核共有論だったり、アメリカの兵器を輸入し、軍事費を今の軍事費より2倍
Those politicians in the government are talking only about the increase
予
of
算の
military
大軍
budget.
拡が行われようとしています。そうしたもとで、その予算は一体どこから出すのかっていうのが問題になると思うんですけども、
Taking Russia's aggression on Ukraine as their excuse.
福祉だったり、生活だったり、
They never
年
talk
金だったり
about
っていうところから
where they can
賄われるんじゃないかなということで、私たちは
bring
そう
that
いったこ
budget
とに
out
軍
of
事
the
費に
total
使うより
national
も、
budget.
私たちの生活にお金を使おうということを求め
Costs
て、
that will
こう
be
いった活
taken
動を行
from
ってい
our
ます。
lives. Social programs, education,
6月の
Health
22日より、オーストリアのウィーンで、第1回の核兵器条約の締約国会というものが開かれています。発行し、国際法として初めて核兵器をスタートした
just recently, the meeting of the states parties to the TPNW was held in Vienna, Austria. For the first time, with this treaty, nuclear weapons were banned by international law.
広島、長崎を経験した日本がなぜ核兵器禁止条約に参加しない
But
のか
why
という
Japan,
落
which
胆の
had
声や
experience
希望の声が上が
with
っています。
Hiroshima and Nagasaki, did not take part in the
今
conference.
の総理大
Many
臣
people
は
voiced their
広島県の
disappointment and
岸田国
despair.
のさんですが、核兵器禁止条約に日本政府として参加もしない、オブザーバー参加もしない、そういった
Even as an observer,
は
he
広島
refused to
選
take
出の
part.
総理大臣として許してはいけないことだと思います。
We should
今
not
度の参議院選挙では、
let Kishida, who was elected from the Hiroshima constituency,
課題があると思いますので、ぜひ皆さん、
this policy.
平和の道を歩む政治家を選択し、私たちの暮らし
So
を
let
豊
us
かなものにな
choose
るよう
the
な
peace
政治を
politicians
期待していきた
who
いと
can
思いましょう。
march together with us.
ぜひ皆さん、自分で考えて選挙に
So let's discuss, let's think
よりよく
deeply
いきましょう。
about our future and what we can do. Thank you. the closing song by Okuma Akira.
核兵器禁止条約にぜひ日本政府も一日も早く参加をその思いを込めて、核兵器禁止条約の歌を、
So let me sing the song about Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons that we have just created together with our colleagues.
The time is now more than ever. No more having fun. The time is now more than ever. No more having fun. The road to a peace and it just one is already ahead. Let us all be close together, dance together. Let's dance on. The time is now.
We unfortunately have to say a big thank you to everyone in Japan for the wonderful job, and keep moving on around the world to Korea. Welcome to our friends from Korea. Please take the floor.
Thank you. Here it is Korea, and yeah, we are now ready for next next round of the rolling rally. Yeah, please wait for a second for transition. Okay, hello everyone and welcome all. This is the 8th part of 24-hour peace wave, and we are a team of peace activists based in South Korea, from Seoul to Jeju. I'm Kayeon Kim, your moderator for today, a research manager at Peace Momo, a civil society organization based in Seoul, a platform pursuing to connect peace to education and peace to daily lives. Let me briefly walk through this session's program. There will be 3 video presentations and 1 on-site presentation for about an hour. The presentations will cover Korean civil society's efforts on opposing the military exercises and NATO expansion from the perspective of the Korean Peninsula. The first presentation will be shared by Kaya from the Inter-Island Solidarity for Peace of the Sea Jeju Committee about the sea protest and press conference at the Jeju Naval Base on June 22nd, opposing the catastrophic RIMPAC war exercise. Kaya produced a beautiful video clip that vividly captures the efforts of the Gangjong village, where the Navy base is located on Jeju Island. Kaya, would you introduce a little bit about the video clip?
Yes, I'm happy to be able to join this Zoom live and see many familiar faces who are joining from the International Peace Bureau and World Beyond War, and people who are also joining in the Pacific Peace Network, who have been meeting recently to talk about how we can oppose these RIMPAC war exercises that are about to start, and many ships are already present in Hawaii. So one way that we have been working for solidarity with Hawaii from here on Jeju Island was to hold a press conference this past Wednesday, and we also had a kayak protest. So I explain pretty well in the video, I think. So it's just good to say hello to everyone, and I hope you enjoy my short video presentation. Nice to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaya. There will be a video clip it will be showing, and so video clip is ready. Could you play? Click together.
Greetings of peace to everyone around the world who is joining the peace wave. let us together build a wave of peace that disarms and transforms our world. Here in Gangjong Village, Jeju Island, Korea, we are struggling against increasing militarization, even though this island was officially declared an island of peace in 2005. During 15 years of resisting against the construction and operation of the Navy base here in Gangjong Village, we have learned the devastation caused by militarization, the abuses of human rights, the destruction of the environment, and the pain of broken community. But we have also learned the power of cooperation and creativity to keep our hope of peace alive. Construction of the Jeju Naval Base was completed in 2016. It is a South Korean base, but as predicted, it has been visited by numerous U.S. warships, including a nuclear submarine and a nuclear aircraft carrier. Not only do foreign warships come to Jeju, Jeju also sends warships to far-off deployments. Recently, on May 31st, 3 warships left from the Jeju Naval Base, headed toward Hawaii to join the RIMPAC, Rim of the Pacific Naval War Games, the largest naval war maneuvers in the world, which will take place from June 29 to August 4. RIMPAC is a biannual war exercise that pollutes the ocean, damages coastal habitats, kills whales and dolphins, desecrates sacred lands, threatens the daily life of Hawaiians, exacerbates global warming, wastes precious resources, and heightens military tensions, setting us all on a path towards war. A Hawaiian visitor to Gangjong taught us about the concept of aloha aina, a love and respect for the land and the sea. In a spirit of solidarity, we shared this message at our press conference, held by 20 civil society organizations in Gangjong, outside Jeju Naval Base, at noon on June 22nd.
군사적 긴장, 전쟁 위험 고조시키는 환태평양 훈련 림팩 철회하라! 림팩 철회하라! 림팩 철회하라! 민중복지 희생시키는 환태평양 훈련 림팩 철회하라! 림팩 철회하라! 림팩 철회하라! 생태계를 파괴하는 모든 전쟁 훈련 중단하라! 전쟁 훈련 중단하라! 전쟁 훈련 중단하라! 기후 위기 악화시키는 모든 전쟁 훈련 중단하라! 전쟁 훈련 중단하라! 전쟁 훈련 중단하라! 제주를 전쟁의 섬으로 만드는 제주 해군기지 폐쇄하라! 제주 해군기지 폐쇄하라! 제주 해군기지 폐쇄하라! 태평양의 주민들과 연대하자 범태평양 비무장 평화의 지대를 만들자! 제주 해군기지 폐쇄하라! 제주 해군기지 폐쇄하라! 알로하 아이나! 알로하 아이나! 평화를 빕니다! 평화를 빕니다!
In the afternoon, some of us kayaked out the mouth of the Gangjong River to the sea entrance of the Navy base, while others walked out on the breakwater, which is a so-called civilian military complex tourist site, and shouted to us from the other side of the harbor entrance. I hope that the sound of our voices calling across the water for peace and for aloha will prepare the way for the healing of Gangjong's coastline, so it will never again spew out warships to infect our beautiful Pacific Ocean, so it can be a home again for dolphins and birds who can teach us how to move about in harmony with the world, and corals who can teach us how to build safe and beautiful communities.
림팩 훈련 중단하라!
림팩 훈련 중단!
Thank you so much, Kaya. Yeah, the concept of Aloha Aina and the strong voices of the peace activists at Kangjong, and also the lyrics from the music played at the end of the clip echo our situation a lot. My ordinary day will change the world. Yeah, it means a lot to me, especially. Sometimes I feel that our steps to building peace are too small to make a single change, but as the lyrics show, if our ordinary days are connected together and continued, that will become huge steps toward peace. So let me introduce the second presenter, Soo-young Hwang from Center for Peace and Disarmament of PSPD. Is a person who continues to walk small but meaningful steps toward peace. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol is attending the NATO summit right now for the first time ever as a president of Korea. Given the ongoing warfare between Ukraine and Russia, the division of Korean Peninsula, as well as the US-China rivalry, it is considered that the visit would intensify global military tension. In this context, Soo-young will share the press conference of Solidarity for Peace and Reunification of Korea and PSPD regarding the Korean government's presence at the NATO summit. Yeah, and Soo-young will also show the video clip as well. So we need some time for setting up, right?
Yeah, okay, I will play the video clips.
여러분, 우리의 평화의 목소리가 유럽에까지 울릴 수 있도록 오늘 신나게 투쟁하실 수 있죠? 투쟁!
부쩍 많이 사용하는 용어가 있습니다. 자유민주 진영이 모여야 된다. 자유민주 진영이라는 단어를 많이 사용합니다. 예, 우리는 자유를 지지하고 민주를 염원합니다. 전 세계의 모든 시민들은 자유를 원하고 민주를 원합니다. 그와 더불어서 생명이 함께 살아가는 평화도 원합니다. 근데 우리가 역사적으로 경험한 것은 어떤 정치 세력이, 어떤 군사적인 세력이 자유라는 단어를 독점하고 민주라는 단어를 남용해서 자신의 세력을 팽창하는 데 이용하거나 자기가 보기 싫은 상대를 적대하는데 그 단어를 남용할 경우에 많은 사람들에게 정말로 불행한 일이 생겼다는 것을 우리는 똑똑히 기억하고 있습니다. 냉전 시대 자유라는 이름으로 인권이라는 이름으로 얼마나 많은 분쟁이 일어났고, 얼마나 많은 독재가 정당화됐고, 얼마나 많은 민주주의가, 얼마나 많은 시민들이 공작당하고 핍박당하고 이른바 빨갱이로 아니면 다른 테러리스트로 내몰렸습니까? 그래서 지금 자유민주진영이라는 사람들이 다 모이는 것이 불길합니다. 새로운 냉전이 도래해서 많은 전 세계 시민들이 자신의 생명과 평화와 그리고 자유와 민주를 오히려 희생당하게 될지 걱정하는 것입니다. 나토 정상회의가 모인다고 합니다. 나토는 냉전 시대의 산물입니다. 냉전이 끝나고 누구나 다 나토는 해체될 거라고 생각했습니다. 왜냐하면 그와 적대하는 다른 동맹인 바르샤바 동맹이 해체됐었기 때문입니다. 그런데 많은 세계 시민들의 기대와는 달리, 그리고 이른바 동구권 나라들과의 약속과는 달리 나토는 더욱더 강화되었습니다. 냉전 해체 초기에 잠시 군비를 축소하는가 하더니 다시 군사력도 늘리고, 그리고 동맹도 강화하고 그 외호수도 팽창해서 결국은 다시 한번 유럽을 불안정하게 했습니다. 그 불안정하게 한 결과가 많은 부작용을 낳고 있습니다. 지금 우크라이나에서 일어나는 여러가지 전쟁도 물론 침공한 러시아에게 어떤 변명도 줘줄 수 없겠습니다만, 이 지역 자체가 군사적인 위협이 상존하는 곳으로 만들고 분쟁이 지속되는 곳으로 만든 책임에는 나토를 빼놓고 생각할 수가 없습니다. 이제 다시 그 나토를 더 확장해서 동아시아로, 인도 태평양 지역으로 늘려나가는 것, 이것이 가져올 결과에 대해서 우리는 걱정합니다. 그것이 또 다른 갈등을 부르고 또 다른 군사적 긴장과 군비 경쟁을 부르고, 그리고 마침내 고강도 저강도 무력 분쟁을 야기할 것이라는 것을 우리는 역사를 통해서 잘 알고 있기 때문입니다. 무엇보다도 지금 70년째 전쟁을 겪고 있고, 그 70년 전에 이미 세계대전 수준의 전쟁이 이 땅에서 일어났는데 아직도 불안정한 주전 상태에서 군비 경쟁이 지속되는 이곳에 나토라는 국제적인 동맹이 또 다른 명목을 가지고 진출하는 것에 우리는 우려합니다. 그런데 7천만 8천만 한반도 주민들의 생명과 생존권을 걸고 전 세계를 향해서 평화를 외쳐도 모자랄 우리나라의 대통령이 기존의 남북 간 북미 간 합의가 지금 좌초되고 어렵게 만들어진 한반도 평화 프로세스가 이제 사실 그 이전으로 악화될 위기 상황에서 군비를 확장하고 군사적 긴장을 부르는 동맹에 가담하기 위해서 멀리 유럽까지 날아간다는 것을 우리는 받아들일 수가 없습니다. 우리가 원하는 것은 첫째도 평화, 둘째도 평화, 셋째도 평화입니다. 평화는 군사적 방법으로 주어질 수가 없습니다. 남한의 군사력 팽창이, 그리고 가공할 만한 한미동맹의 무력 시위가 한반도에서 어떤 결과를 초래했습니까? 북한의 핵무장을 부르고 DMZ를 위태롭게 하고 이 지역 모두에, 다만 비단 한반도뿐만 아니라 이 지역 모두의 군사적 긴장과 불편함을 초래하고 또 평화적으로 협력할 길을 가로막는 그런 장애물로 작용했던 걸 우리 너무도 잘 알고 있지 않습니까? 우리는 나토가 팽창하는 걸 반대하고 우리나라가 거기에 개입하는 것을 반대하고 우리 대통령이 그 자리에서 겹불이라도 쬐는 것을 절대로 용납할 생각이 없습니다.
나토 정상회의 참여 반대! 나토 정상회의 참여 반대! 나토 정상회의 참여 반대! 미국의 지구적 동맹 반대! 미국의 지구적 동맹 반대! 미국의 지구적 동맹 반대! 빛의 머리 위로 높이 좌우로 흔들어주십시오. 빛의 머리 위로 높이 좌우로 힘차게 흔들어주세요. 얼씨구 주제 잘한다. 전쟁 부르는 동맹 해체! 전쟁 부르는 동맹 해체! 전쟁 부르는 동맹 해체! 상생평화 공존하자! 상생평화 공존하자! 상생평화 공존하자!
미국은 소련과의 합의를 어기고 군사 동맹인 나토를 동쪽으로 확장시켜 왔습니다. 나토의 동지는 유럽의 평화와 안보를 위협해왔던 직접적인 원인입니다. 러시아의 우크라이나 침공은 두말할 나위 없이 국제법을 위반한 불법적인 침공이지만 그 직접적인 원인도 나토의 동진에 있습니다. 그런데 미국은 한국, 일본, 호주, 뉴질랜드 등 아시아 국가들을 나토와 연계시켜서 나토를 아시아 태평양 지역으로 진출시키고 나토와 한미동맹, 일미동맹, 오커스 등을 결합시켜서 미국 주도의 지구적 동맹을 구축하려 하고 있습니다. 이번 나토 정상회의에 아시아 동맹국들을 대거 초청한 것도 이러한 목적을 가진 것입니다. 특히 미국과 나토가 러시아뿐만 아니라 중국을 겨냥한 새로운 전략 개념을 채택하겠다고 밝힌 것은 이번 나토 정상회의의 목적이 러시아와 중국, 북한을 겨냥한 나토의 확장 그리고 지구적 동맹 구축에 있다는 것을 도골적으로 보여주는 것입니다. 만약 미국의 지구적 동맹 구축이 현실화된다면 대결과 위기가 일상적으로 벌어지는 신냉전 체제가 도래하고 말 것입니다. 따라서 지구적 동맹을 구축하려는 미국의 행보는 2차 세계대전 이후 일관되게 상생과 평화, 집단 안보와 공동 안보를 추구해왔던 국제사회의 노력을 완전히 짓밟고 전 인류를 또다시 전쟁과 대결의 소용돌이 속으로 몰아넣겠다는 것입니다. 이에 우리는 나토의 확장과 지구적 동맹 구축을 중단할 것을 미국에게 강력히 촉구합니다.
We are youth peace activists of SPARC. The reason why we gather here in front of President's office is to oppose South Korea's participation in NATO and NATO's global expansion. The US has broken its promise with the Soviet Union and expanded its NATO military alliance to the east. NATO's expansion is a direct cause of the threat to peace and security in Europe. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is surely illegal and is a violation of international law. However, the main reason for Russia's invasion is also NATO's expansion to the east. Nevertheless, the US is trying to expand NATO to the Asia-Pacific region by connecting Asian countries such as South Korea, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand to NATO. This is to build a US-led global alliance by combining the US-ASEAN alliance with NATO. With this intention, the US invited many Asian allies to the 2022 NATO summit. In particular, the US and NATO have announced that they will adopt a new strategic concept aimed at China as well as Russia. This is a blatant indication that the purpose of this summit is to expand NATO against Russia, China, and North Korea, and to build its global alliance. If the US builds its global alliance, there will be a new Cold War causing confrontation and crisis to occur daily. Therefore, the US establishment of a global alliance completely brings down the international community's efforts for cooperation, peace, collective security, and common security since World War II. It's going to push the entire human race into another spiral of war and confrontation. So we urge the US to stop expanding NATO and its global alliance building.
이번 나토 정상회의가 갖는 의미 모두가 아시다시피 결코 작지 않습니다. 나토는 이번에 러시아와 더불어서 중국을 공통의 안보 위협으로 인식하고 글로벌 나토라는 지구적인 군사동맹으로의 변화를 추구해왔습니다. 러시아와 우크라이나의 전쟁이 장기화되고 미중 경쟁과 갈등이 심화되는 상황에서 이번 나토 정상회의에서는 새로운 전략 개념도 채택할 예정이라고 합니다. 나토가 나아갈 정치적인 방향, 군사적인 방향을 담은 개념입니다. 이 새로운 전략 개념을 통해 군사태세를 재정비하고 확충하는 것, 그리고 나토의 역외 활동을 활성화하는 방안 등에 대해서 논의할 예정이라고 합니다. 역외 활동이란 동아시아 지역으로의 나토 영향력 확장에 초점을 두고 있습니다. 미중 경쟁에 공식적으로 나토가 관여하겠다는 것입니다. 이러한 맥락에서 아시아 태평양 비회원국들을 초청한 정상회의에 참석하는 윤석열 대통령의 행보를 심하게 반대하고 우려합니다. 전 세계적으로 군사주의와 진영 대결이 심화되고 있는 상황에서 한국 정부의 대외 정책은 군사동맹 강화, 한미일 군사협력, 나토와의 협력 강화 등 미국 중심의 질서에 전적으로 편승해서 중국에 대한 압박에 동참하겠다는 것을 점점 명확히 하고 있습니다. 이러한 정책은 지역의 군사적 긴장을 높이고 신냉전 구도를 강화하여 한반도와 동북아의 평화, 그리고 여기에 살고 있는 모든 이들의 안전을 위협하는 결과로 이어질 가능성이 높습니다. 이번 평화행동에 24hour 피스웨이브에서 함께하고 있는 전 세계 모든 평화단체들과 함께 전 세계적인 군사동맹이 되고자 하는 나토에 반대하는 활동을 한국 시민사회도 함께 계속 이어가도록 하겠습니다.
네, 안녕하세요. 저희는 한국 윤석열 대통령의 나토 참여 반대를 촉구하는 평통사 청년팀입니다. 나토 정상회의에 한국 대통령 최초로 윤석열 대통령이 참석합니다. 한국은 이미 나토 글로벌 파트너 국가로 나토에 간접 참여하는 등 나토와의 군사적 협력을 강화하고 있습니다. 이 가운데 윤석열 대통령의 이번 나토 정상회의 참가는 한국의 나토 참여를 본격화하는 계기가 될 것입니다. 한국의 나토 참여는 러시아와 중국, 북한을 겨냥하는 미국 주도의 지구적 동맹 구축의 일환입니다. 한국이 나토에 참여하면 남북관계는 물론 한중관계, 한러 관계는 더욱 악화될 것입니다. 이미 중국의 언론과 전문가들은 한국의 나토 참여에 대해 그 길의 끝은 우크라이나가 될 수 있을 것이라며 반발하고 있습니다. 따라서 한반도의 평화와 번영, 통일의 길을 멀어지게 하는 한국의 나토 참여는 즉각 중단되어야 합니다. 한국의 나토 참여는 한국에게 경제적, 군사적 부담을 가중시킵니다. 이미 윤석열 정부는 우크라이나에 경제적, 인도적 지원뿐만 아니라 캐나다, 폴란드 등 제3국을 통해 우크라이나에 무기 지원을 하는 계획까지 검토하고 있습니다. 우크라이나에 대한 지원은 시작일 뿐 한국이 나토에 참여하면 한국의 부담은 계속해서 늘어날 것입니다. 윤석열 정부에게 미국의 지구적 동맹 구축에 동참할 것이 아니라 자주와 평화의 길을 선택할 것을 촉구합니다. 윤석열 대통령의 나토 정상회의 참가와 한국 정부의 나토 참여를 우리는 강력히 반대합니다. 감사합니다.
Yes to peace, no to NATO. 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 Today. 나토 참여 반대! 한국 나토 참여 반대! 한국! 자, 마지막으로 주제! 주제! 나토 정상회의 참여 반대! 나토 정상회의 참여 반대! 나토 정상회의 참여 반대! 전쟁 부르는 동맹 해체! 전쟁 부르는 동맹 해체! 전쟁 부르는 동맹 해체! 전쟁 부르는 동맹 해체! 상생 공존 평화하자! 상생 공존 평화하자! 상생 공존 평화하자! 상생 공존 평화하자! 주제! 감사합니다. 수고하셨습니다. 너무너무 수고 많으셨습니다.
Thank you, Suyong, for sharing the amazing and rhythmic efforts of civil society groups. It's really true that there's apparent streams that is trying to divide international society by coalitions and alliances. So the observation connects to the President Yoon's concept of security. Recently, President Yoon has expressed his traditional security perspective since he was a presidential candidate. And also recently, he keeps adhering to hardline toward North Korea and announced that he pursues peace by force. What would it mean for the situation of the Korean Peninsula? And what would be the possible responses of the civil society? Next presenter, Ah-Young Moon, the representative of Peace Momo, will share her view on NATO's expansion to Asia from the perspective of Korean Peninsula. We invite Ah-Young.
Thank you, Gayan. Dear colleagues all over the world, can you hear me well? Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Ah-Young Moon with Peace Momo, as our moderator Gayan kindly introduced. Today, I will be briefly sharing the view from Korean Peninsula. This is based on what I see. So if you have another opinion, anytime you are welcome to intervene. I would like to start with my statement that I do not agree with the definition and the concept that the globe is at the new Cold War. Because from the perspective of the Korean Peninsula, there has been only the Cold War since the Korean War. The spring has never come on the Korean Peninsula. As we all know, the President Yoon Suk-yeol is going to participate in the NATO summit in Madrid. as I see, the most of the Korean media have been covering. Sorry, the audio issues. I got the memo from my team, so sorry for that. As I see, the most of the Korean media have been covering the news with the title South Korea's first president to attend NATO summit. And yesterday, the US and China started to argue over the participation of South Korea at the NATO summit. And the mainstream media started to change their stance and started to mention about the gains and losses of participation in the NATO summit of South Korean government. And also yesterday, in response to a reporter's question, the media press reporter's question about the reason for participating in the NATO summit, President Yoon Suk-yeol replied that if it is necessary, I can discuss South Korea's various current issues, including export-related problems. Referring to this response only, it is getting even more worrisome about the South Korean government's diplomatic vision. He believes that he can discuss about the current economic issues related to South Korean situation. And he's not fully aware of what NATO stands for. That's what I suspect. As we are all aware, the current NATO strategy was adopted in Lisbon in 2010. And this coming NATO meeting, the adoption of a new strategic concept is expected. And this new strategic concept of NATO is obviously going to reflect the NATO member states' concerns about China, including its economic practices. Just a few days ago, John Kirby, the US National Security Council coordinator, has said that less than a year ago, the defense ministers for the first time in NATO put a mention of China in the communique. So it's building on what has been once discussions and deliberations with the allies about the threat that China poses to international security, well beyond just the Indo-Pacific region. This is how they justify NATO's expansion. And what the South Korean government is doing is supporting NATO's plan to expand its power over the whole globe. According to NATO and the Republic of Korea have engaged in dialogue and cooperation since 2005. South Korea has been one of a number of countries beyond the Euro-Atlantic area, often referred to as partners across the globe, with which NATO has been developing its relations. In 2012, NATO and South Korea started its individual partnership and cooperation program, which was renewed in November 2019. And very currently, on May 5th, 2022, the South Korean National Intelligence Service joined the NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence. So South Korea has become the first Asian state to join NATO's cyber defense group. No surprises. As it has been shared on screen so far with the actions of my colleagues in South Korea, South Korean civil society groups have been articulating its clear voices against participation of the Republic of Korea at the NATO summit in Madrid. From the perspective of the Korean Peninsula and Northeast Asia, the participation of the President of the Republic of Korea in this NATO summit is a very dangerous signal, as Soo-young already mentioned and Gayeon and Kaya already mentioned earlier. The current South Korean government makes an excuse that South Korea is a non-member state of NATO, so the participation has no problem. But it is not actually. South Korea's presence at the NATO summit in this situation has a high possibility of being interpreted as a clear sign that South Korea is ready to join the new Cold War on the side of the US and the rest of the West. The decision to be present at NATO summit in Madrid shows the South Korean government's will to continue to progress and strengthen its military alliance and deeper participation in the US-led camp. So this is clearly going to raise military tension in Northeast Asia because the US-led camp like NATO clearly aim to containment and pressure on China and Russia. So the Korean government's foreign policy is to participate in NATO summit itself is already pressure on China by fully riding on the US-centered order, such as the ROK-US military alliance, Korea-US-Japan military cooperation, and strengthening cooperation with NATO. So South Korea's close interaction with NATO will encourage North Korea to stand on the side of the US against bloc. So what the US and the rest of the West are doing is not multilateralism. They say and they pretend as if they are doing the multilateralism, but it is just the bilateralism between the West and the rest. NATO's invitation to South Korean government is because they need South Korea as a strategic core in Northeast Asia. Currently, Peace Momo had a forum, a roundtable with the previous chancellor of the Korean National Diplomatic Academy. His name is Junyoung Kim. And he mentioned in his current book that what the South Korean government needs to do is find a way to degrade the Korean Peninsula's strategic value from both sides, as known as the China and the US. To do that, diplomacy really matters. And to do such diplomacy, the South Korean government should have developed its vision and philosophy in international relations. But what do you think? In my opinion, so far, there is none. I think they have never thought about any diplomacy philosophy. So that's why we worry. As you might know, next year, 2023 is the 70th year of the armistice of Korean War. Let us put ourselves in a shoe of a member of a separated family in Korean Peninsula. I believe from their point of view, the world has never gone beyond the Cold War structure, the Cold War regime. From the stance of state actors in international politics, the Cold War has been over with the collapse of the Soviet Union. But based on the principles of human security, I believe the Cold War has actually never once been resolved on the Korean Peninsula. As we already discussed, every relation is mutual. To transform the conflict, accusing and demonizing one side only is not helpful. We do have an example that economic sanctions that the United States and the West are taking on Russia seem failed already. This is not surprising because sanctions against North Korea are also clear failures. With the stronger sanctions, North Korea has succeeded in developing a stronger nuclear weapon. So the world does not change with isolation and exclusion. I believe deep and real change is possible only through connection and hospitality. So only when we accept the fact that the US strategy of insisting on failed sanctions and still emphasizing North Korea's denuclearization only is outdated and useless. And we need to raise our voice that we need new plan. We need to develop our new agenda for world peace. And we need to come up with a fundamental countermeasure for peace on this planet. Here I am standing for peace with my colleagues from all over the world. I would like to say the peace be with the people in Ukraine, and peace be with the people standing for peace in Russia, and peace be with all the living beings on this planet. Peace will never come with this narrow and self-oriented our team strategy. In this notion, the international community has a duty to critically review the failure of the collective security, because as the current report of IPB with Olof Palme Foundation on common security, in this globe with multiple and complex crises, what we need to cooperate is to find a way for security with, not security against. This is all. Thank you for listening. I will be finished here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ayang, for your meaningful insight. As you said, peace will never come with our team's strategy, but through the way of security with the common security. Sadly, it seems to be difficult to be achieved whenever we observe the fluctuation of the relationship between the two Koreas. The relationship between the two Koreas seemed to be improving in 2018 when Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in agreed to the Panmunjom Declaration. As a citizen living in South Korea at the time, I dreamed of crossing the border between the South and the North and traveling to Europe by train at the time. Unfortunately, that has not happened yet. Next year, 2023, is the 70th anniversary of the Korean Armistice Agreement. Since 1953, the Korean Peninsula remains divided. And now there have been collaborative efforts globally to end the Korean War. Soo-young, would you introduce briefly about the campaign?
Yes, thank you, Kayan. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be with you here. Yes, Korean Peace Appeal is an international campaign that seeks to amplify voices calling for an end to the Korean War and a transition from armistice to peace system. Our message is simple. 70 years is enough. Let's end the Korean War with people power. So we are collecting signatures of the Korea Peace Appeal from 2020 all over the world. More than 370 South Korean civil society organizations, religious groups, and more than 70 international partner organizations are participating in the Korea Peace Appeal campaign. We have been conducting various activities for peace on the Korean Peninsula and Northeast Asia. And today I would like to share our campaign song, music video, and short documentary film created by the campaign. The documentary film is about border island in South Korea. Gyeodong Island in South Korea is only 2.6 kilometers far from North Korea. And the island is within the civilian control zone, restricted to civilians for military purpose. So we visited island of Gyeodong and Gangwon and heard the people's story, and please enjoy it. Yep. Kayan, you will be, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We are kind of communicating through our messenger right now, and because of the time is running up, we think that it's better to show the End the Korean War campaign video rather than the documentary. So, and please share the link of the documentary clip in the chatting. Then, yeah, we can finish it in time. Okay, so yeah, then would you share the campaign video clip?
한국이 이런 나라에서의 삶이 전쟁처럼 느껴졌다면 아니 그저 살아남길 비는 포로처럼 느껴졌다면 죽이지 않으면 내가 죽는다며 대신 죽을 누군가를 찾아 헤맸다면 그건 이 전쟁이 아직 끝나지 않았기 때문일 거야. 이해할 수 없는 뭔가를 없애버려야 할 것 같았다면 그래서 그걸 저주하는 일을 삶의 이정표로 삼았다면 자기는 걸릴 게 전혀 없단 듯이 감시의 눈길을 애써 외면하며 살았다면 그건 이 전쟁과 평생을 함께 했기 때문일 거야. 매일이 무서워서 무서운 줄 몰라 이 공포를 정의로 알고 살아. 우리 편이 아닌 죽음엔 무감하지만 언제 내가 또 적으로 몰릴지 몰라. 우리 이 전쟁을 끝내잔 약속을 하면 어떨까. 지금껏 살아보지 못한 평화가 찾아오길 원한다면 여기 서명해. 여기 서명해. 여전히 기지는 넓혀지고 사람들은 쫓겨나. 삶을 잃은 사람들은 살기 위해 결국 전쟁에 목을 매. 당해본 사람은 소리 지르지만 힘센 사람들은 그 입을 막아. 그래서 우린 이 전쟁을 모르는 척하고 살 수 있었던 거야. 군사 경쟁 아닌 협력을 원해. 핵무기 없는 세상을 원해. 미워하며 사는 건 지겨워. 이 평화를 일상으로 가져오길 원해. 이 전쟁을 끝내자는 약속을 받아냈으면 좋겠어. 나부터 서명할게. 그리고 지금부터 전 세계에서 1억 명을 모을 거야. 스톡홀름 어필 2억 8천 명의 서명. 베를린 어필은 5억 명. 절대 많지 않아. 세상을 뒤집어 엎길 원하는 그런 마음들이 모인다면 70년의 분단, 70년의 냉전, 70년의 불안, 70년의 폭력과 아픔. 계속할 이유가 없으니까 여기서 끝낼 수 있으니까 여기 서명해. 여기 서명해. 여기 지금 일단 서명해. 더 이상 기다릴 필요가 없어. 70년은 그냥 너무 길어. 이 전쟁을 끝내자. 이 전쟁을 끝내자. 지금 여기에서 우리가 지금 여기에서 우리가 지금 여기에서 우리가 지금 여기에서 우리가
Wow, such a nice song. Thank you for sharing. And it really resonates to me that there's no need to continue. The 70 years is too long. It's time to wrap up. The recent report of CPRI, the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, indicates that our planet encountering a complex crisis, security and climate crisis, pandemic, and failure of governance. And the report also suggests that in order to resolve the crisis, there needs to have collaborated efforts. That is the reason why we are participating in a global virtual rally right now. We need to speak up for peace and cooperation, the scaling back and dismantling of military alliances, the disarmament of governances, and the democratization and strengthening of international institutions of non-violent cooperation and the rule of law. Our effort to cooperate for peace will make our common future, as IPB proposes with their recent report, our common future. This 24-hour Peace Wave will live stream on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, in addition to being on Zoom. So please stay tuned for 24 hours Peace Wave and peace actions afterwards as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you to all of these wonderful people from Korea. We have, if you want 5 more minutes, we have 5 minutes.
We have 5 minutes still, so we can have
the time left.
We were so worried that we are going over time, so.
Well, there are a few announcements I can make. I'm going to stop and restart the live streams on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So if you're watching this there, just jump onto the new one that will be starting in 2 minutes. And we're going to be bringing on people from the Philippines. And I think some of them are here and have been made co-hosts, and some I may still need to find and make into co-hosts. But contact me in the chat if there's something I need to do. And why don't we let our friends from the Philippines get started?
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Kelvin. I'm coming from the Philippines. And today, for this segment, the part 9 of this 24-hour Peace Wave, I will be joined by artists, comrades from the Philippines. And we will try to weave